Well, yesterday was an interesting day in the life of our state. We received some of the guidelines and procedures and timelines for what the future holds for us here in the state of Alabama. And I know because I saw it both online and heard it from others that there are a wide variety of opinions about whether or not the course that's been charted is good, whether the ideas that were presented are wise. And it seems like if you talk to 5 people, you get 5 different opinions. And there's an old joke about Baptist: if you have 2 Baptists in a room, you have 3 opinions. And so I just want to speak to our church for just a moment about some possible dangers for us in the days ahead as it relates to our relationships with one another. Paul says in Ephesians chapter 4, he says, "I therefore, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called." Okay, so what does that manner look like? How does one walk in a manner worthy of our calling as Christians? He says, "with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace." And he reminds us of our unity in Christ. So basically, he commands all of the things that our culture is terrible at: humility, gentleness, patience, bearing with one another in love. Those are all things that we don't naturally do as human beings, and oftentimes struggle to do as Christians. And so there was an article that was published yesterday on a ministry website that talked about kind of the 2 camps that usually emerge or have been emerging, especially now as we have conversations about opening the economy back up and trying to return to some sense of normalcy. And the 2 camps are this: there's a group of people who tend to be more cautious, wanting to move slower, wanting to take extra precautions or just take the precautions that are recommended in order to be safe. Things like wearing face masks, things like waiting to gather. And then you have another group of people, equally well-meaning, who may be convinced that this whole situation is overblown, that maybe this is an exaggerated threat, and they are, comfortable not following the guidelines. They're comfortable, not being reckless, but doing a little bit less than is recommended. And so these 2 groups of people, I just want to talk about just the main danger I see for each one. So the main danger for those who are more cautious is to look at those who are a little bit more confident and go, they are reckless, they are morons, and they are dangerous to the rest of us. And then the danger for those who are maybe a little bit more confident is to look at those who are more cautious and say they don't trust the Lord, they don't have faith like I do, they are fearful, they are cowardly. Both of those would be sin. It is true that no one knows exactly what the best course forward is. And at an institutional level, what that means for us is that we do have to take the cautious path. We do have to take the path that is most careful for the most number of people. But don't miss Paul's words for us in this moment. The greatest danger for all of us is to begin to look down on one another, to begin to make assumptions about one another's character, to begin to slander one another. That is the great danger for all of us. And so be reminded of what Paul says in Ephesians chapter 4. Be reminded that we are to exercise our lives in the way we deal with others with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, and eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace. I love you. I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern.